More phone calls coming up. Update the poll results. Joe Thomas is the only player in NFL history to play in more than 10,000 consecutive plays without interruption or injury. The NFL record, 10,363 snaps. Sounds pretty impressive. I don't know what it means, but are you the Cal Ripken of offensive linemen?
I'll allow you to call me the Cal Ripken of all of the NFL if that's what you want to do, Dan. You can put the words in my mouth. I'm okay with that.
Okay, but how many times were you aware of this streak when you played?
I was, yeah. So it was probably like year 6 or 7 when I realized, you know what? I don't think I've missed a play yet. And then our sports information director, Dan Murphy, kind of looked into it and was like, hey, you're right. You haven't missed any plays. And oh, by the way, I don't think anybody's done that ever since they started keeping track in like 1999 or something like that.
But how many times did you go out there just to keep the streak alive?
So I never actually willingly said, oh, I'm ready to take a break but I got the streak on the line. I got to go back out there. But certainly towards the end, as I was getting closer to 10,000, which is kind of a big milestone, I thought, you know what? Hey, if, my shoelace breaks or I lose a chin strap, do I call a timeout? Do I just go and quick call a timeout so I can save the streak and just deal with the coach yelling at me on the sideline? And I think to myself, you know what? After 9 years of doing this, I think I deserve to waste at least one timeout if I had to with something goofy like a shoe untied or busted the chin strap or, something with the equipment malfunction happens.
I had a former college coach, well-known college coach, and he was talking about developing running backs because we don't use them the way we once did. But maybe there's a comeback with that, with Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. But also developing offensive linemen, that the way the game is played in college, that we're not developing offensive linemen the way that we once did. Your thoughts on that, of what you see with offensive linemen now as to, when you were at Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's a much more wide open game in college and in high school, especially. And I think because of that, the guys on the offensive line are not really taught the breadth of techniques that we were when I was in college and when I was early in the NFL, where you have to learn so many different ways of blocking. You're blocking man concepts, you're blocking double teams and gap schemes, you're blocking inside zone, you're blocking outside zone. And then also you have your drop back pass, you have your 3-step, your 5-step, your 7-step, your play action, your boots. So you have this huge catalog of techniques that you have to learn that they just don't do that quite as much anymore. And they don't put as much pressure on the offensive lineman, which is probably a good thing because it takes a long time to learn all these different techniques. But I think they've really dumbed it down and at the high school and college level. And so because of that, at the NFL, you see guys that they've got great technique. They're stronger, they're faster, they're more athletic than ever. But they don't have those pro style catalog of techniques that they used to. And so when you're asking them to do a bunch of different stuff like NFL offenses do, they struggle in a lot of different ways because it just takes a lot of time and a lot of reps to develop that. And oh, by the way, we have less preseason time. We have less contact time in the off season and through training camp. And so you have less time to actually develop those techniques that you need the most.
What is it about a couple of these tackles that get off the ball? It feels like they're moving before they're supposed to be moving. Lane Johnson kind of mastered this, but are they, is it illegal? Should it be flagged?
No, I think the problem is for decades, we were used to seeing the ball snap. And then after the ball is about almost between the center's legs, we see the offensive line move. And defensive linemen were moving at a similar slow pace. Well, somewhere, I don't know, maybe beginning of my career, a defensive lineman realized, hey, if I can beat that offensive tackle off the snap and get ahead of him, now he's playing catch up to me. Now he's back on his heels. And then now I can dictate whatever I want to do in my rush at the point of contact. He's off balance. I can either bull rush him or I can pull him. I can rip to the outside. I can move to the inside, but I've got him right where I wanted. And so offensive tackles started realizing, hey, the secret to winning the rep is to win the snap. And that's what we started emphasizing. And so then you started hearing guys and seeing guys anticipate when the snap was coming. And so when you listen to a snap count, which is really important from a quarterback, I had a lot of quarterbacks, 20 quarterbacks that I blocked for that were starters at Cleveland. And the first thing that I would try to train these guys up on is, all right, we need a rhythmic cadence so that I can anticipate when you're going to call for the ball and I can start the process of my brain telling my body to move, which there's a little bit of a lag time. It's not like the speed of light, but it's pretty fast. But that little split second of lag between when your brain says go and your body goes is enough of a difference maker that is the determination of whether you win or lose the snap and whether you win or lose the rep in a pass pro. And so I would actually tell myself, like Lane Johnson and all the tackles that you're seeing doing a good job of it, I was telling my body to go before the call from the quarterback, which made the timing absolutely perfect. So if you actually look at it for a lot of these guys, the second the ball just starts to move before the snap even really happens, the tip of that football just starts moving. That's when they're moving. And that's a perfect rep. And to the naked eye, it probably looks like they're jumping and they're false starting until you slow it down on film and you see, oh, no, that was actually perfect. Because if they don't do that, that's exactly when the defensive linemen are moving.
Okay, but give me for instance, your quarterback line of scrimmage, when do you know that ball's going to be snapped? Because if he goes, green 57, set, hut, like,
yeah, so if it's on one, you'll hear the snap count. It's actually like a rolling cadence. So we used to do wide 80 set up. So all those things kind of roll together. So when I would hear wide 80 set, I was actually going on the set before the hut, which was actually the calling for the football. And so you had to also stay on top of your center, because if he was trying to get a head start too, now all of a sudden the ball is coming before the quarterback and everybody else is ready. And so that's why it's really important that the quarterback's cadence and how he rolls into the hut and when the center is snapping the ball is all perfectly in sync and perfectly the same from one snap to the next, so that I can win and the defensive lineman is a little bit behind.
Spent 11 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, works for the NFL Network, Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer, and you're working with Colt. Explain what Colt is.
Yeah, Colt Firearms, they have made the Safety Impact Award to try to encourage safe and responsible firearm ownership. And myself, Clay Matthews, guy went against a lot, probably thought I was false starting quite a bit when he was playing for the Packers. Adam Vinatieri and Fletcher Cox, we're all trying to raise awareness for safe and responsible firearm ownership. We've all selected a nonprofit charity, mine, the Great Ducks Unlimited, which fights for wetland restoration and clean water, clean air throughout North America. And we're raising money for those organizations. And all people have to do is go to safetyimpactaward.com. They can vote for those organizations. It's $1 per vote. And then when you vote, if there's a safety, which you get the little pun there on words, if there's a safety in the Super Bowl, people that voted for the winning charity have a chance to win a portion of $100,000 from Credova. So you get an opportunity to get a free prop bet in the Super Bowl and get to cheer for a safety, which is my wife's favorite play. So I'm always cheering. Happy wife, happy life.
Give me the quarterback who would be the toughest to block for.
So there's always this conversation. I just had this with Lane Johnson a couple of weeks ago about, would you rather block for a quarterback that's mobile, that, if you get just flat out beat, like you just fall on your face and the guy runs past you, is able to make that guy miss and turn it, chicken salad into, or chicken, into chicken salad. And, or would you rather have the guy like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady who's exactly in the right spot every time? He's not really going to avoid anybody, but he's throwing that ball on time. And for me, I always preferred the guy that was in the right spot, getting rid of the football on time, because then I knew I could do my job, right? No matter what. And like, I always wanted the onus to be on me to make sure that I did my job the right way. And I don't really care what the quarterback does, but if he's in that spot, he's going to be protected. But some guys, they prefer the guys that can get out and move, the Jaden Daniels, the Jalen Hurts, the guys that, hey, you get beat and all of a sudden he's going to make a great, amazing play and convert a first down. And then all of a sudden, instead of the coach putting you in a headlock and giving you a noogie on the sideline, he's patting you on the back and say, hey, it's okay. You'll get him next time, buddy.
But Mahomes is not like Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen. Or even Jalen Hurts. He's just unique, because I always call him an opportunistic quarterback. He's an opportunist. There's no design runs, but if there is a run, I'm going to be taking advantage of that. But then we also get to this point where, is he flaunting the protecting the quarterback when he's out of the pocket? If you were the NFL, would you make any tweaks to that rule next season?
Absolutely. And I have been banging this drum for a while, because I do not blame Josh Allen, because he does it a lot too. I don't blame Patrick Mahomes. I just think they're doing a good job of utilizing the way the game is officiated right now. However, the NFL absolutely has to make a change with how they officiate the roughing the passer, with how they officiate the giving yourself up to slide for quarterbacks, how they officiate guys at quarterback like Patrick Mahomes did last weekend, where they look like they're about to go out of bounds and then they stop and then the defense hits them and then they fly out of bounds. And I don't even necessarily blame the quarterbacks or the officials in this case. It's just how it's being officiated, because if you look at the rule, they're saying that when a quarterback starts to slide, that's where the ball should be placed down. So the moment he starts to slide, that's where he's down. And it was a way of a quarterback being able to give themselves up when they're in open field without getting hit at all. And it was supposed to happen way before contact was ever made. But because officials were placing the ball like in the middle of when they started their slide, they were giving them these extra yardage after they had started sliding. And because of that, now you see quarterbacks doing these late slides. They're trying to get as close to a defensive lineman as they can, and then maybe look like they're going to slide and then keep going. And it puts defenders in tremendous conflict because you don't know what the intentions of the quarterback is. And the intentions should be very clear by the letter of the law and the letter of the rule from the NFL. They should be able to understand well in advance from a defensive standpoint if that quarterback is giving themselves up or not. And the fact that it's not happening and we're getting late slides, we're getting fake slides, we're getting quarterbacks that pretend like they're going out of bounds and then they don't, it's actually become a very dangerous play. We saw that with Trevor Lawrence earlier in the season. Now his wasn't quite as late, but because of this difficult quandary that we're putting the defenders in, whether they don't know what the quarterback is doing, and then if they don't make a play on the quarterback, they don't try to tackle him. Now they're a meme on social media for being a bozo and not trying to hit the quarterback and just standing there. And, you have all these issues of not knowing what's happening. And so I think for the safety of the quarterbacks, which is, I think, in everybody's best interest, of course, we want to see Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen go at it this weekend. We don't want to see those two backups. Like, we want to keep them healthy, but it needs to be officiated differently. And there needs to be some type of penalty, maybe like they did in the NBA with the flopping and stuff, against a quarterback who's not clearly giving himself up well before he gets anywhere near making contact with a defender.
Did you ever think you were really intimidating anybody if in cold weather you went out there with short sleeves on? No, it was definitely a peer pressure thing. It was an ego thing that came from a long, long time ago. But the one thing I will say to people that, are always impressed, because you always hear the announcers, well, the linemen are wearing sleeves. It's amazing. I actually felt that not wearing sleeves was warmer, because when you wear sleeves, when you get sweaty, which inevitably you will, now that material's got water on it, sweat on it, and it's going to evaporate and make your arms colder. And so what we would do, and I'm sure they still do it, is if you wore bare arms, you'd put Vaseline, which helps cut the wind. It helps cut any of that evaporation that's going to happen. And then don't forget, is that legal? Is that legal?
As far as I know, I never got a flag for it. I never got fined for it. So I'm pretty sure it's legal. Defenders would do it too. But I think the thing that we need to remember too is, like, underneath that shoulder pad and jersey that you're wearing like a wetsuit. Like, you're wearing the warmest possible thing on planet Earth. You've got a wool patch stitched up into your helmet that covers your ears. The sidelines have these giant jet blow torches that, like, they're so hot you can't even get near them, or I've melted my shoes before. So it is plenty warm for those players. We do not have to feel sorry for those guys whatsoever on a cold day. Feel bad for the officials that don't get to go over there, maybe, or the people that are working the sidelines, or the fans certainly who don't have any of those heaters. But the players, they're just fine, guys.
He's Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer. And 10,363 consecutive snaps without injury or interruption. See, you can't, like, if you're sick around the house with your wife, like, she'll be like, oh, Mr. Consecutive Snap Streak is not going to be able to help us take out the garbage.
Yeah, it works good with my 4 kids, because I'm like, hey, kids, all right, you can get up, you can go to school, you're just fine. Okay, I'm sorry you hurt your shoulder. You know what? I played 10 and a half years in the NFL without missing a snap. I think you guys can suck it up for one basketball practice.
Once again, you can go to safetyimpactaward.com for more on what Colt is doing, the Safety Impact Award. Great to talk to you again, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dan. If you guys want to go to my social media, Joe Thomas 73, you can also find that link on my Twitter and Instagram.
All righty. We'll take a break. Last call for phone calls, what we learn, what's in store tomorrow, right after this.